But I sold it for 6 ringgit 50 cents.
Okay.
A lot of my friends were telling me that, like, you guys are like stupid, you know. This is not a smart decision. You should like sell it for like 18 ringgit. I was like, but
Because I guess they see that everything's handmade, you're making it from scratch,
yeah,
you're putting all this effort in, right?
yeah,
So it should be sold for a higher price, right?
yeah. But then that is a lesson learned, you know. Because if you want to sell something cheap, you gotta sell it a lot.
Which is obviously I do food videos as well.
Mm.
People say, "Oh, rep a star."
Mm.
What's the criteria for a star? So if I say 4 and 4.5, where does the half come from?
Yeah.
What was it based on? Years ago, we did one show about nasi lemak where we tried to rate all the different parts of nasi lemak. So there would kind of be a process behind what makes the sambal a 3 or 4. It's hard to expand that out. Like, how do you give a rating? And like you said, what makes you qualified to give a rating?
Yeah,
Is it based on anything, or is it just sukahati?
Yeah,
you
it
know?
is. It is that. Even like me as a professional, I would never go out and say that this one is 7, this one is 5 or whatnot. Because number one,
How can, if we look at the whole industry, right, specifically for food content, obviously there's your reviewers, your promoters, you know, people like yourself, where you said you're not really a reviewer, but you're trying to put out educational content. How do we make people more aware of putting the right information? Because there's a lot of misinformation. I mean, one thing I like when you call out some videos where it's very obviously what they're saying is wrong.
Yeah.
We won't name any names on any particular platforms, but there's one where they were saying stuff in the video. Even I'm watching it like, fuck, man, this is like, it's wrong. Sometimes the intentions can be good, but you get the backlash.
Yeah, the nitpickiness of like, oh, I don't like your tone and whatnot. Like, I couldn't care less. It's like,
how do you deal with that though? Like when it happens, you know? Like,
this might seem like cocky, but a lion does not care what a sheep thinks. I can't go back to being in the fine dining industry because they don't pay well. Like, this is just it's just not how it is. You know, there's that pay ceiling that it just cannot be breached. You know, that I need more money. So, but me valuing myself, that I said to myself that like, I will not go back to that industry and slog all those hours, lose all of my family time, and not even get paid that much for just like this is not financial security at all.
okay, selamat datang ke podcast Cari Makan, di mana kita bercerita sikit tentang industri F&B dan bercakap dengan orang dalam industri F&B ni. So, kita ada satu guest yang special hari ni, Chef Syamil, atau juga dikenali sebagai Butter Always, kan? Butter Always. So, sebelum kita start, minta kenalkan diri dulu.
Assalamualaikum, saya Chef Syamil. Ataupun orang kenali saya di Twitter sebagai Butter Always. Can we continue this
Sure,
in English? I articulate things better, and saya tak nak cakap utara orang ingat kita nak gaduh.
Itulah kasar sangat.
Kasar tu.
Kasar.
Yeah. But I've been in this industry for quite a while. I've had stints in 5-star hotels, cruise ships, fine dining, even in kedai chicken chop pun. That was like one of my first jobs that I had to get to know the industry.
So I think we've known each other online back and forth for
Yeah.
a little while, right? Like
Yeah.
had a bit of back and forth on Twitter. I mean, most recently, I think December, I tried your set makan besar, the roast beef, right? So I thought it'd be good to come down and talk because online you're quite active, sharing about F&B.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is a good chance to cerita dengan orang ramai about F&B. So maybe, so you mentioned a lot of experience. How did your journey in F&B start actually?
If we want to go way back of like who inspired me to be a professional chef or who inspired me to be food, I could like break it down to two, because professionally it's always been media, and media in the form of books, in the form of like travel shows and whatnot. And Anthony Bourdain has been always been a big part of that, because he laid down everything, he laid it bare, and it was all the nitty-gritties, it was the ugly side of it, and to see whether like when I read it, I had to evaluate it for myself whether I wanted to do it or not. But when it comes to food, it's always been my family. The ones that are still around, the ones that are no longer together with us, like my grandparents and whatnot. Because I grew up in a kampong, even though I'm like millennial, like we're about the same age. So like, a lot of our generation, they grew up in the city and whatnot. But my formative years, I was in a kampong, grew up in Kelantan, all the places. And my grandparents, they were there to raise me for a short while. While my parents were out at work. So what did I do as a small kampong boy? Played around the fields, chased around the chickens, fed the chickens and whatnot. And through there, at that time, we still can pick and choose which one we want to eat. And that whole thing of getting our hands down and dirty and even feel emotions like sadness, like I still remember feeling like, oh, I love this particular chicken. Now we have to eat it. So why do we do that? And my grandfather was like, because we love it. Because you have to eat every part of it, appreciate every single part of it, and not just eating the breast meat. Or like kids, they like to eat the fried skin part. They just eat that part and become picky eaters. But my grandfather, he had a way with his words. And my grandmother, she let me potter around the kitchen, gave me the lesung batu and just like hammer away at the bawang while she does other things. Taught me how to flip an egg. I think at the age of 5, I remember doing that. And my grandmother on my father's side pula, when we go back home, go back balik kampung to Perlis, I remember fishing with her, and like we caught a haruan, it's a snakehead fish. It's they have like really sharp teeth, and my grandmother always told me that like you have to be careful, and this is how we dispatch it like safely, which is a machete to the head. And me seeing that as a kid, it might seem like a bit gory, but in hindsight, this is the kind of thing that we're missing, in this modern era of food comes from somewhere.
Yes,
It
seeing the
comes,
source,
yeah,
right?
seeing the source. Being Malay, growing up Malay, everybody has like this connotation of like we have to like uh, take care of our heritage and whatnot. But when you ask kids these days, where does food come from? Most of them will say like supermarkets or even the market if you're lucky. But comes it comes it
Is
comes
where,
from
where it's
somewhere.
actually
And
come
yeah,
from, right?
yeah, which is the rivers, the paddy fields. It's all of that. Raising chickens is tough work.
Yes.
And that has always been my inspiration for food. I've had a very deep appreciation and understanding of it, and throughout the years I kept that love for it. And later on in my life, it was like, yeah, as a chef, I needed to like, let's just like earn my chops, and say that like if I want to be a professional, I need to at least sembelih a chicken. Like how many professional chefs in this modern day and age, ask them like, hey, have you felt warm blood trickle down your hand? It's like this animal, this living thing that you are going to eat, you're going to cook, you're thinking of like, oh, making it into something like poulet chasseur or something else. But then have you processed it like at the source?
Actually processed it,
Yeah,
right?
I actually processed it. So yeah, that whole thing, like inspiration for food, has always been
So
from
I
that.
mean, I guess it started when you're young, right? Growing
Yeah.
up in that environment, being exposed to it. So did you always know you wanted to go into being a chef, or was there like it was just there, and then how did it become an actual career choice?
It wasn't there in the beginning. I've always wanted to do. Yeah. I have a love for animals. I have a love for reading about the natural world. So yeah, I've always loved reading encyclopedias about animals and whatnot. I wanted to be a zoologist and whatnot, but then something ticked in me way back then. It's like maybe this animal tastes good. So
Okay.
it kind of developed along the way. And that going back to like inspiration for who inspired me, like going fishing with my father and whatnot. It's like, oh, you catch a fish, and then you think at the end of the day, after you put it in that cool box, like what are we gonna cook with it? So that whole thing of like, yeah, that slowly, like it came like step by step, bit by bit.
Understand?
Yeah. But at one point, I didn't actually. I started going to culinary school quite late in my life. I think
Okay.
2014. So I was 23 at that time. Yeah, I was 23 at that time. For that, I was studying something else. So yeah,
Okay.
it's that whole thing of like Asian parents, they don't feel like this is a viable career choice, especially like if you're academically inclined. But eventually, my parents did support me, and then eventually I did enroll myself into culinary school. And also at the same time, I was already dating my wife, and she, in contrast to me, started be in the F&B industry immediately after SPM.
Okay.
So yeah, she had experiences earlier on, and then when I was dating with her, I was still studying something else. She laid down the reality of it. It's like it's not good. It's not easy. It's gonna be long hours. You're gonna get yelled at. Pay is going to be poor, and I said to myself that like in this current trajectory is the same, but at least I love that.
Understand.
Yeah, I love cooking. I love that industry. So this other one, nah.
So the passion was there from a young age, but
Yeah.
then it only sort of became a career after culinary school.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
after culinary school, what was your first actual job to Cari Makan in that industry?
My first stint would be in Rasa Sayang Shangri-La in Penang. So it was like closer to home a bit. Then I saw like, oh, this is what it means to have standards to be in the industry. And after that, I had a stint in a chicken chop shop. That one too, it was kind of a downgrade from.
I was going to say quite a contrast.
Yeah,
right?
quite a contrast. But you learn a thing or two, of how to what people here would call like how to Chicago things, which means like how to take the shortcut or like cheat your way around. And yeah, I learned a lot in that kitchen. And after that, I moved on to cruise ship. And
Okay.
yeah, in the cruise ship, that was tough, but it paid a lot. so that thing of me. Actually, I forgot. Before the cruise ship, I was in the fine dining industry. I was in Seoul, Korea. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was something else also, and I kind of had a back to back kind of really intense, high pressure work environment. In the fine dining, it was mostly skill based, and in the cruise ship, it was mostly energy based because I just had to expend a huge amount of energy, no day offs, and it was the mental load of like having to plan, having to, and a complete skill change. Because if you were to ask me like what am I trained in, I'm classically trained, classic European, modern European, mostly French. Then when I was on the cruise ship, I got on board, and the chef told me that I have to be kicked to a hawker style restaurant.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're classically trained, right?
yeah,
How can you switch, right?
because on that cruise ship there was this chef that had like a restaurant there. His name is Chef Mark Best. If you watch Netflix, you might know him. So I was like very gung ho. During the interview, I was like, I'm fine dining. I can work there. Like it's my thing. And then when the chef said that there are not enough Malaysians in this hawker style restaurant, we need someone who really knows the ingredients and whatnot. And I said to him that I don't know how to make char kway teow. I do not know how to make nasi goreng. Like toss a wok? No. I work with tweezers.
Because you come from fine dining.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
I work with tweezers. That's not my thing. And he told me you can get off. We're still in Port Klang. And I said, okay.
So that's the decision point, right?
Yeah, that's the decision point. I made the decision to say, okay, you know what? And luckily for me that a lot of my peers, my colleagues, they were all really, really helpful. Even though like the ragging was still there because it's quite funny, to see a guy toss a wok with two hands like that and like fumble around. And when they look at me, they say that aren't you supposed to be you're being paid as much as us? Aren't you supposed to be good at this? It's like, I'm good at somewhere else, not here.
Got the fine dining.
Yeah, yeah. But then I kept my head down and I tried to learn as many as possible. And from then on there, when people ask me like, what can I do? I can do almost anything.
So would you say it was that sort of mix of experiences now means you are a bit more generalized in skill set?
Yeah. I have a very general skill set, and that being said, in the professional kitchens in the West mostly, they do appreciate you being generalized. They want you to have like, for example, a classic French trained background that you know all your mother sauces and whatnot, but then with a little bit of twist from your own culture. They really appreciate it when you have like that edge, when you have like, for example, if you're Korean, you know your fermentations well. If you're from Asia, Southeast Asia, you know your spices well. You have like these techniques that they don't know. So being a master of one limits you, but being a generalist, a jack of all trades like this, yeah, you can get places. Yeah.
So do you think maybe looking back on that cruise ship when that decision was there, even though it went a little bit like you said, I'm used to tweezers, I'm used to fine dining, you're gonna put me on the wok.
Yeah.
Actually, in the long term, it actually helped add to that skill, right?
Yeah. It is something that I don't regret for like fighting harder. No, I was like, thank God I could do that because I didn't want to limit myself. I didn't want to limit my skill set. And again, that whole thing of where I chose to work is because that I wanted to expand my skill. I didn't want to limit myself to just like doing one thing and one thing only. Because if you compare to like for example a sushi restaurant, right? Some of these masters they train for like 20 years with the same guy, and 5 years is just washing rice.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
You're super specialized.
yeah, you are super specialized. It's a good trade. By all means, I respect them. You want to cari makan, you have to be like very like versatile. You need to do a lot of things.
Kind of got to know what fits with you, right? Which is what fits with, I guess, your journey, what you want, right? So if you have that vision of, do you know what, I want to be a bit more general, you're gonna have to seek out those opportunities to.
Yeah.
So after the cruise ship, what was next after that?
After that, there were cards on the table of me heading over to Australia because I did eventually befriend the chef on board, and he was like, "Hey, you're kind of out of place, you know, like you kind of like belong in my." So that it was fun and whatnot, and he put the cards on the table that if you ever want something, I can hook you up in Australia. But again, it happened in 2020.
Okay, understand. So factors luar.
You can't
right?
control that. But during that year, actually it was like towards the end of 2019, we opened up a pan mi shop. Me, my wife, and my friend, we opened up a pan mi shop. And chili pan mi is not a Penang thing. It's a KL thing. So my friend, he is a Chinese KL, so he was like telling me that how to like sell it best here in Penang. You know, like trying to find the target market, trying to find the right taste and whatnot. And the flair that we put in our bowl of pan mi at that time, we went all out. We weren't using minced chicken. We were braising chicken whole, and we were making our sambal hebi, the dried prawn sambal, all from scratch. Even our bawang goreng was from scratch. Our ikan bilis, it was not like wash and deep fry. No, I learned this technique back in fine dining where you wash the niboshi, the Japanese ikan bilis. So after you wash it, you dry it, but 80% of the way, and then you deep fry it at a very specific temperature and it will puff up. And we did that. It was such a, I loved serving pan mi back then. But I sold it for 6 ringgit 50 cents.
Okay.
A lot of my friends were telling me that you guys are like stupid, you know, this is not a smart decision. You should like sell it for like 18 ringgit. I was like, but
because I guess they see that everything's handmade, you're making it from scratch, you're putting all this effort in, right?
Yeah.
So it should be sold for a higher price, right?
Yeah. But then that is a lesson learned, you know, because if you want to sell something cheap, you got to sell it a lot. COVID earlier on was fine. Everybody still had money. It was, nobody was, the figures were like in the single digits, right? End of the year when the numbers shot up, that's when we took a hit. And it was pretty bad. It was, I still I still tried to run the shop, even though like eventually my friend said like, hey, we cannot keep this up, you know, like he himself, he made the adult decision to say that I'm gonna go back to KL so that you have enough money to like support your family, you know. I said, okay, fine. So like when he left, I was there alone because my wife was she just gave birth, so she took care of my daughter, you know, my firstborn. So it was difficult trying to do it alone when you have like this huge workload, and at the same time when I started hiking up the price just to make sure that I'm fairly compensated, and then you get this like annoying like comments of like, hey, why did you raise your price?
Yes, right.
Yeah, in the beginning when we opened up, it was a single grade A egg was 38 cents. And at the peak of it, it was 1 ringgit 20 cents. So
Which
that
is
huge,
massive, right?
yeah, huge
Yes.
price difference. But then it's lesson learned, you know.
And I guess you're switching from having a team, like you said, you know,
Yeah.
you had your friend, your wife, now you're doing it yourself,
Yeah,
and your margins got lower.
yeah,
How are you gonna sustain, right?
yeah. It is that whole thing of like trying to find sustainability. So it's
Yes.
like, yeah, your heart is in the right intention of like trying to keep it cheap, But then again, like, what is your true value? Like,
Yes, exactly, right.
what you put out on the table. Your resume is on the in the bowl on the plate. You know, it's like whatever skills that you've learned, you accumulated throughout the years, all of the people that you learned it from. It's like it's there. But then if you put that value at a very low number,
I mean, it's kind of reflecting your value, right?
yeah, it is that. So after that, I kind of had like a very like bad breakup with business. It's that it's like I stopped doing that for a while.
I mean, was that your
Yeah.
first venture, like
My first business.
like your first business,
Yeah, it
right?
was my first business, and after that, I kind of stopped for a while. But I still had friends, and I still had like a few businesses that I was like kind of their caterer, main caterer. So I just did small scale stuff, nothing much.
But it's a challenge, right? Because if it's your first venture, I mean, you've gone from all these different environments, you know, like you said, fine dining, restaurant, cruise ship, you've started your own venture, had some challenges. It is quite difficult to, what do you do after that, right? Because like
Yeah,
you said, that breakup.
yeah,
right?
it's like putus cinta, you know. Like sometimes when I still have like, so well, if people don't know yet, I recently, as of last year, started getting a lot of traction on Twitter, being like this someone who talks about food, debunks a lot of facts and whatnot. So some of them who were my previous customers, they found me and they said, "Hey, you're the guy that we went to eat pan mee. Like, why did you stop?" I was like, "I stopped because blah blah blah." And then, why don't you do it again? I said that's something that I don't
It's
want to
a
revisit.
panjang cerita, right?
Yeah, it's a panjang cerita that I don't want to revisit yet.
But I find that sometimes what happens, right, is, you know, in business, right, a lot of people will look and they'll say, hey, why'd you stop? You know, I want to support, you know, oh, it's such a shame. But the whole story is there's not enough of those people that want to support
Yeah.
to sustain it.
Yeah,
You know?
it is that whole thing of like you learn about target markets, you learn
Yes.
about like buying power, you learn about location. All of this
Yes.
it's an accumulation. You know, it's not like you read one textbook and then you're like, okay, you apply everything about that thing you learn, it will come to fruition. No, it's like bit of tweak here, you need to
Yes.
like tweak there a bit. It's an accumulation.
And I think with F&B as well, you can have the F&B knowledge, the food knowledge, but there's also that business side where, you know, you have to go through the trial and error, right? You have to, like, you know, like you said, margins, right?
Yeah.
You know, okay, you need grade A egg, but then when the price goes up X amount of times, how do you factor that in? You can't just increase your food price.
Even if you downgrade your quality, for example, like grade A eggs is a certain amount of eggs inside there. I think it's about 60 grams. And then if you downgrade grade C, which goes about to like maybe 48 grams, that affects the noodle texture, you know,
Yes.
because we put, for example, the recipe says 6 eggs for 1 kilo of flour. Then when
It's
you
based on the gram. If the gram is different, everything's going to be off, right?
yeah, and I tried doing that, and people complain, say that it's not as good as before. So it's that whole thing. Like, do you want the price to be cheaper, or do you want to be? Yeah, it's that human factor. It's a steep learning curve.
Yes. That's the challenge, right? When it comes into business, right? So I guess after that pan me business, what was the next sort of thing for you? Did you go back into, like you mentioned, some catering with friends? Like, did you go back into
that one was a very, how to say, it wasn't a stable thing. So I was doing Grab also at the same time, and a lot of my friends were like, "Man, this industry is very it's very harsh towards like people who know what to do, because again, Malaysia does not pay their chefs very well. Like the average pay is iffy, for lack of better words. So I had to find that balance of like, now I have a family to support, I have children to feed, I have bills to pay. So I still had to supplement it somehow. And I've also tried to look at other options, like for example, being a chef lecturer and whatnot, for the amount of work that I have to do, for the amount of knowledge that I can part to people, and the pay is not tak setimpal lah.
it's not with the
It's
value,
not
right?
it's not worth the value. And also at the same time, I've had this like realization that if you're a line cook, there's only like, for example, there's only like a certain amount of, it's a pay ceiling cap, you know. There you cannot go more beyond that. And when it comes to like being in the middle management or the management, CDP or sous chef or head chef, uh, the number of like open positions is super limited. it's very competitive.
Yes.
It's very difficult to get a job. So, I just had to adapt. And along the way, it's just like fate just so happened to be that my friend opened up his own cafe, and he started like calling me up and said that, hey, can you provide pies and whatnot. I loved going to his cafe. It's by the beach. It's over on Butterfringi. It's called
Okay.
Canopy Kopi. So we provided the food there, kept on supplying food for him for a year more. I think, yeah, for a year. And then one day we just like got to talking, and then I asked him whether like, do you have space for a kitchen, because I miss being in the kitchen. I miss cooking professionally, even though before that, during the same period of time, I was doing my makan besar, just like opening orders, coming down to KL, cooking roast beef for people here. And I still miss that rush, that
Understand.
adrenaline rush. Maybe it's a junkie thing. It's that uh when people fire the orders, and I
It's that
can,
feel, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I cannot watch The Bear because it's too PTSD inducing for
Understand.
me and my wife. When we watched the first episode, it's like I cannot watch this. This hits close to home. I cannot do that. But then again, apparently I missed it. So yeah, I talked to him, and then we got over the details, and yeah, now we're there.
Okay.
It's not I'm working for him. It's a kitchen collaboration,
Okay.
because
Nice.
the guys that open up Canopy Coffee, these guys are hardcore baristas. Like
Okay. So they're
my
focusing on the coffee side.
yeah,
Right?
they're focusing on the coffee side, and my friend Vishnu, he's the barista. It's kind of like you rarely meet an Indian barista, and this guy, he incorporates a lot of like the Indian type of beverages like masala chai,
So he's
madras
got his
coffee.
twist on it as
Yeah,
well,
he's got
right?
his twist on it, and I love working with him, and like him focusing 100% on the drinks, and me focusing 100% on the food and like
I
stuff
mean,
that we.
that I guess lets you explore your passion, because if your passion is food, you're
Yeah,
not just there cooking, right?
yeah.
You actually have that opportunity, like you said, you put your name on it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a collaboration,
Yeah,
right?
it's a collaboration. Yeah, so yeah, so when people come and they have like that good coffee experience, they have that good food experience. It's like, yeah, we're doing something right. Yeah,
So okay, so your venture as well, which is your venture, is the chef of duty, right? Does
yeah,
the set Makan Besar, right?
yeah,
So we
sure.
were talking a bit off before the recording started, right?
Yeah,
I think it's been going for what, like a year now.
yeah,
I ordered it myself back in around Christmas time.
yeah. It was good.
It's good. Like
Yeah,
seriously, it's not just on camera. Like I think I was WhatsApping you. Like it's really good. How did that come about? You know, like because that's kind of your own venture. Like
we actually did it. The first iterations of Makan Besar was during COVID, like towards the end of 2020. 2020. Yeah,
okay,
me and my friend, we were like talking about like, hey, I think there's this market niche of like people don't know how to eat. Like roast beef is very, it's very niche. There's
yes,
not many places that do it. Some 5-star hotels, they might have like roast beef and whatnot. So
but it's like a sub item, right?
yeah,
It's not the main thing,
yeah.
right?
Like everybody goes for the cold cuts. They look at the lobsters and whatnot. But like the roast beef is there on the hot on the action station, just like
It's just there,
sizzling
right?
away. So me and my friend, we talked about it, and we were like, let's try doing that. And the first challenge was actually sourcing the meat. Just
Yes,
trying
I
to
can imagine,
find
right?
good meat. But then I learned that hey, actually Malaysia have a lot of these frozen food suppliers, all these frozen meat suppliers that have like good halal beef that
Yes,
comes from Australia, New Zealand, so even Japan. But we didn't use Japanese beef; we used Australian beef. So that was like something that we discovered that hey, we can actually bring the price down to make it affordable for people.
because you're getting it frozen.
Yeah, we're getting it frozen and in bulk, and also at the same time, we don't have big overheads. Like most
Yes,
of the time, when a lot of these steakhouses, they take into factor that you have to pay the staff and whatnot. So like we could like charge it cheaper because of that, and then we also had because we are like big proponents of like if you want to judge a steakhouse, you don't look at the steak, you look at the side dishes, and the side dishes during the first iteration we made vegetable provençal, we made potato lyonnaise, we made potato au gratin, and all of these like really niche,
yes, very
classic,
niche, right?
niche side dishes, very classic French, and it was a hit. But the demand wasn't there because I was in Penang.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
So back then it
yeah,
was in Penang.
yeah. It was in Penang. Yeah, so I put that on the back burner for
Okay.
years. And then when last year came around, then yeah, I had the idea of like, you know what, I'm gonna try and penetrate the Klang Valley market. And oh yeah, it's been good. Thank you for everybody that has ever ordered my makam Besar.
How's the response been then? Because I think you mentioned, right, come down to KL, set up,
Yeah,
open up the orders.
yeah, come down together, and the response has, alhamdulillah, has been very good. And I appreciated people who has been giving me feedback about like how to do things better, because again, I'm not I make mistakes too, you know, like trying to like figure out the logistics of it. Like the first iteration, I delivered everything everywhere because I didn't have a scale of how big Klang
Yeah,
Valley
yeah.
was.
Don't really know, right?
Yeah, I
Until
don't
you do
really
it,
know.
right?
Yeah, I only like made like 5 orders per day, and I had to like spend 2 hours trying to send
Driving around.
from Cyberjaya all the way to like PJ. You know, man, my God, this is tiring.
But that's part of learning, right? You
Yeah,
have to go through it,
yeah,
right?
you have to learn. So then tweaked around here and there. Then from there, I could like increase the production and even the recipe also, because like the first few times I had like this really good like truffle pate supplier that was good. But then when he ran out, I tried to switch, and everybody was like, "Hey, this mashed potato is not nice." And I had it. I was like, "Oh my God, this is not nice at all." Because
Something's not the same, right?
because when it's hot, it tastes different. But then when it cools down, the taste completely changes. You know, there's like some form of chemical reaction that I'm not quite sure.
And that will
Yeah.
be the challenge when you're not doing it in a restaurant, right? Because
Yeah.
you're sending it to people. They
Yeah.
are going to heat it up.
Yeah, they are gonna
themselves,
heat it
right?
up eventually. Not at the same time, because like I might be very very satisfied when I'm done packing everything. Everything tastes exactly up to my standard.
Yes. But when it gets to them, right?
Yeah, and I've had like some messages of like, "Oh chef, the guard put it on the post box." I'm like, what?
And that's outside of your control.
Yeah, that is
right?
outside
Yeah.
of my control. What if that person, another person, just comes and takes it, and then oh man, she's already paid the deposit to me, so I have like this sense of like, oh,
I
do
mean,
I have
you
to?
still feel responsible, right?
Yeah, I still feel responsible. So like, if anything happens, like, okay, I guess I have to refund to you. And some people might think that, what are you? Like, what are you doing, man? That's not how you run a business, you know. But I feel bad. I cannot sleep if I know that that person didn't eat the food that I cooked because of like some mishap. So it's that whole thing of like learning to like sometimes things are not under your control.
I mean, that's the thing, right? When like when you're doing it as a business, right?
yeah.
It's different because there are these other factors which
yeah.
you do feel responsible for. But
Yeah.
it's not your responsibility if like the Grab driver does this or
Yeah.
that, or something happens.
Yeah, you get a text message of like the whole thing, and it was, I put the vegetables underneath the beef, but why is it on top now? Because
Is that something, right?
yeah,
But you feel responsible.
yeah,
right?
I still feel responsible, and I sometimes I lose sleep when it comes to like things that, like for example, like food spoilage, especially during bulan puasa, because it was a big gap between that, and there were quite a number of them that said that, hey, the mashed potatoes turned sour. I was like, oh man. So then I learned to like actually prepare it earlier, or way earlier than that, and keep it in the fridge, keep it cool, and then
Then send
yeah,
it,
then
right?
send it, rather than like prepare it fresh and pack it and send it. So yeah, that's the whole thing of like, it's a learning curve. Yeah.
Out of going through that
Yeah,
process, right?
yeah.
But then I guess one of the things is, right, if you're passionate and care, feedback like this makes you want to do better.
Yeah,
right?
you have to be open to feedback. It's never a personal attack.
Yes.
It's always like constructive criticism. That's something that you have to take. Like even like not only as a business, like even like when I was still working in the industry, somebody says that like, hey, your char kway teow is salty. It's like, yeah, I didn't know how to season char kway teow before this, so yeah, it is salty. Sorry, my bad. Own up to the mistake and do better.
Guess that's the thing, right? Not seeing it as a personal attack, but some way for you to improve, do better. It's not a criticism, right? But it's something we can like learn from and
Yeah,
improve on, right?
yeah, something to build upon.
Part
you
of
know?
that feedback loop. And I guess I don't know, maybe that's the difference between maybe just a chef and a cook, right? Because if you're a chef, you care about your product, you want that feedback. I don't know, like what
It is not just a difference between like whether you're a professional or you're doing it at home. It's that whole thing of you want to be sincere in serving the food. You want, even though I don't get many compliments on like all of the fine dining days and whatnot, but I don't really feel that that's like the one that holds the most amount of worth to me. But when people come to me and say that, hey, your eggs are really delicious, and that's something as simple as just scrambled eggs, you know, and that whole thing of, it's easy simple food is hard to make because it's just three ingredients: it's salt, eggs, butter. But how do you make it really, really good? If you're sincere, you would learn how to make it like the best way possible. You would learn all of the techniques to make it. Because when you want to serve, especially now in my time in my period of life, I want to serve everyone the same way I want to serve my own kids. Because my own kids, they say the food is bad. That's when I would lose sleep. Somebody else says it is a stranger, is a customer. I'll be like, okay, I'll try my best. I'll try to do better. But if my kids say something like that, I'll probably cry. Yeah. So that whole thing of I want everybody to have that same food that I serve my own kids, my own family members, and there is no cutting corners. There is no compromise. It's that whole being sincere and doing the best that I can. So if you have that sincerity in your heart, whatever food you try to make, even if it's bad, it's still very good because that the ingredient, that sincerity.
Which again is not, like if you can't really quantify it, but
Yeah.
there's something in the energy there
Yeah.
behind it, right?
Yeah.
Like they say, like, like you mess up with kasi sang, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's true.
It's true.
There's something, it's not just what goes in, but it's
Yeah.
the way it's done, the energy behind it does actually have an effect, right?
Yeah. Well, to give a very good example, the current barista that I'm working with, my friend Vishnu, there was one particularly rude customer that came and he was being a handful, and he made the coffee, he put it out, and I saw him take the coffee and just throw it back. I was like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? I made it in anger. So
Okay.
that's the kind of people I'm working with. So if you want like love, come to Canopy.
But that's the thing, right? But like it's very easy to just buat, right? Just buat. But
Yeah.
actually to care.
To care. That takes a lot. Yeah. And I feel that like in the kitchen, especially in your home, even if you're cooking for just yourself, like care more about what you put in your mouth, care more about the food that you cook.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, that kind of touches back with what you said earlier about understanding the process behind it. Take more attention to it. It's not just food, right?
It's not just food. Yeah.
So that's your professional journey. How did you start as, I guess you could say, a content creator in some ways? Like you're putting out content, you have a name, and a lot of the orders for the Makan Besar
It's as a result of that. Yeah.
How did that happen? Like,
there was one content creator. He kind of like, I'm not gonna name names, but he kind of taught people the wrong thing. Because if you are a content creator and you do all of these food videos and whatnot, what you put out, your word will be taken as gospel. People will use that as reference to how to do a certain thing. And this guy, he butchered the entire cooking process, and I just felt this sense of, come on, if you're being paid to do this, if you have if you gain any monetary, like some sort of compensation, you have to be like better, just teach them better. It's not a personal hate, but I'm just saying out there that just read a book or something, or like learn from someone who is more knowledgeable than you. Because contrary to popular belief, even though it is a very much a skill-based industry where if you have a good mentor, you learn from that. But actually, a lot of the references come from books.
yes, it's the knowledge.
Is the knowledge, just reading about it, just like knowing how to read a recipe. That's the kind of like skill that a lot of people are lacking. When you understand the fundamentals, your fundamental is solid. That's when you can tweak around. If your fundamentals are not solid, and then you start asking, hey, what can I use for substitute or whatnot, it's not going to turn out nice. So when food content creators, they put out things that they put things out there when it comes all of these cooking videos and whatnot. If that fact is wrong, if that skill is wrong, people are gonna start following it. Everybody's gonna keep on
gonna have
doing
a
it
knock-on
wrong.
effect, right?
Yeah, knock-on effect. And then from that one tweet, suddenly a lot of people started following me. It's like I'm not someone that I'm a very private person. I don't want to be in the limelight. But then this sense of responsibility just suddenly just like gets.
So it wasn't ever
frustrated.
intentional. It's sort of
Never
just
intentional.
terjadi, right? Just
Terjadi,
happened, right?
yeah. And from then on there, I have like some friends of mine that keep telling me that like you can actually use this as a platform to actually make Malaysians eat better, you know, like
Educate, right?
yeah. Do you know Hugh Fernley Waiting Stall?
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, it's what he does, you know. He's just trying to educate
Yes.
the public of like, this is where your food comes from.
Yes.
This is where like
I mean, that's his whole brand now.
Yeah.
Is about
Yeah.
where it comes from, right?
Yeah, River Cottage is nice and cozy, you know. It's not like all the stainless steel tables and whatnot. Is just skinning rabbits and say that, yeah, this is a source of food.
They
that you
like
can eat.
showing it, right?
Yeah, and showing it. Yeah. So that
That's how it started, right?
that's how it started. Yeah.
But I guess, you know, since then, I would say you're quite active online, calling out
Yeah.
content creators, which is, you know, is it something now where you find like, you feel like it's a responsibility to, do you know what, right? I have that knowledge, you know, and I feel people should be more of it.
Yeah, people should be more aware, but how I approach it, I think I'm gonna take a few notches back down, you know,
Okay.
because I cannot be like all aggressive and just like throwing cuss words all the time, you know. Like, I don't want to be that kind of a person. Again, that whole thing of like putting up a facade, like Gordon Ramsay just like shouting around in Hell's Kitchen. No, that's not what I do. It was just that spur of the moment, because like, again, I didn't intend it to be that way. I didn't want people to know me as being that kind of a person. So calling people out is just part of it. I would say that it's maybe like 30% of it, but the rest is like educational,
Education, right?
Yeah, because when I feel like, hey, there's this topic that I want to talk about, and it's relevant to the times. For example, another one of the hit tweets would be the rigor mortis when it comes to sembelih lembu, you know. So during that time, it was Raya Haji season last year, and I've always had this thing that every time I go to the masjid when they slaughter the cows and whatnot, then there'll be like some pakcik. It's always that one pakcik that doesn't know how to jaga his mouth, and he'll say that, sembelih elok-elok, kalau tak nanti daging keras. Or he will say that potong elok-elok against the grain, daging akan keras. But the thing is, the daging is going to be keras no matter what, because of rigor mortis, you know. So that whole thing of like, I had it in my mind. I was like, I'm going to finally talk about it because I have a following now. So then when I put it out there, it's like, hey, it's not anybody's fault. It's actually that
Yes, education is making people aware, right?
yeah, is that whole thing of contextually that we as Malaysians, as Southeast Asians, refrigeration only came like what, 70, 80 years ago. It's not even that long ago. And before that, when you slaughter a large animal like cow, you need to process it quick. You need to process it like as soon as possible. So people slaughter it, process it, butcher it apart, and then immediately cook it, you know. So that's why the meat gets tough. But again, that whole thing of like, culturally, we've had methods of how to make it tender, which is all this masakan berkuah, curries, rendang, all of this that will make it like very fork tender and whatnot. The problem only comes when people still think that it is a cow, it is beef, that you can treat it in a Western way. That's when people started noticing, like when they do daging bakar and whatnot, it'd be like, oh, kenapa keras? Kenapa keras? It's because of the rigor mortis. So that whole thing of the aging process, what happens and whatnot. So I explained it in that tweet. And from then on there, I kind of like, you know what, I should put up more of these kind of contents. And at one point, that somebody said that, hey, Farm Fresh brought out like local butter now.
Oh, this is quite recent,
yeah. That was quite recent, and they said that, can you please review it? And I was like, am I a reviewer? Am I that kind of a person? But then when I did taste it, and I was like, okay, this is how you should taste things. Like, you taste profiles, notes, all of these things. It's not just salt when it comes to salted butter. You try to like identify nuttiness. You try to identify like grassy notes or sweet cream notes and whatnot. And people were like, that's new and whatnot. So Malaysians in general, they are very curious. They want to know all of these processes that goes on behind the kitchen, or like all of these nuances, you know. Sometimes people, it is ingrained in them, like they have tasted it all, but then this upgrading of Malaysian palate, you know, that's the goal for me, which is like when everybody knows like, this is how it should taste like. This is like how they can identify flavor profiles, because like there's a misconception of like the difference between taste and flavor. Taste is the five tastes. Umami, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and flavor is actually everything else. It's like that. Rosemary. That rosemary is not taste. Is a
You're right, it's
flavor.
a
It's,
flavor,
yeah,
yes, yes.
it is all of that. And subsequent tweets of like educating people in that. That's always been that. But I use Twitter because I'm camera shy.
Okay, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah. So then there are no TikToks, and even my Instagram is private is because I'm camera shy.
So I guess it kind of came from like that want to educate
Yeah.
and I guess bring more understanding to
Oh.
people. Because like you said, there's misconceptions,
Yeah.
certain things, which is okay, how do we educate people
Yeah.
in such a way? Do you think that I guess content creators in general should have more response for educating correct? Like you
Oh.
mentioned about things like okay, flavor versus taste, you know, like misconceptions, okay, reality. Do you think content creators should be more responsible with their stuff? Because like you said, there's a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
It is that lah. It's that sense of responsibility because again, content creation it's a way of teaching someone. It is how you use the tool. People talk about like, oh, TikTok is bad or whatnot, brain rot. No, it's how you use it. It's how you consume it. And I find that social media, especially, is a very good tool of getting the information out quick and getting the information out like very very concise. So this sense of responsibility, I do not sense it yet in Malaysians. There is that whole thing of like, yeah, the amount of content banyak. So everybody does a lot of recipe videos, reasoning behind the recipe videos, context behind the recipe videos. All of this context in terms of like history or whatnot. Of like talking about like maybe nasi tumpang. Why is nasi tumpang like wrapped up in that shape? Like why is it convenient? That convenience is because that paddy field workers, they bring it out to the paddy field when after they till the soil. They want to have a quick snack. Is that whole thing of like quality content? This is what is missing. And if they are watching out there, just do your homework better, read about it, and it's not just about like giving ratings and whatnot. That's a whole different ball game on its own. It's like, are you even qualified to give that kind of rating?
Ooh,
Yeah.
so
So,
that to be honest with you is one of my pet peeves as well, right?
yeah.
Which is obviously I do food videos as well. People say, "Oh, rep a star."
Mm.
What's the criteria for a star? So if I say 4.5, where does the half come from?
Yeah.
What was it based on? Years ago, we did one show about nasi lemak where we tried to rate all the different parts of nasi lemak. So there would kind of be a process behind what makes the sambal a 3 or 4. It's hard to expand that out. Like, how do you give a rating? And like you said, what makes you qualified to give a rating?
Yeah,
Is it based on anything, or is it just sukahati?
Yeah,
you
it
know?
is. It is that. Even like me as a professional, I would never go out and say that this one is 7, this one is 5 or whatnot. Because number one, no matter what kind of establishment it is, I still respect what goes on behind the kitchen. I know who works behind there. I know how much they're getting paid. The hard work they go through. It's just somebody trying to
Because you've been there, right?
Yeah, I've been there. It's just somebody trying to put food on the table. Number two is that whole thing of subjectivity versus objectivity.
Yes.
When somebody like most recently best butter in the world rating and whatnot. But then how do you quantify that? And I did make a post about that. It's like you cannot just generalize it like that because it's all about there are categories to it. Even like when you watch like the academy is supporting actor, main actor, blah blah, cinematography. So there are like breakdowns to it.
Yes, exactly.
So when it comes to butter, it's the same thing. It's like there's grassy notes, there are sweet cream notes, these types of butter. So you cannot just like generalize it into
Yes, it's
one
just the best
list.
butter, right? Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and even if I were to say that who is best qualified to make this list of best butters, if it's a chef that's doing it, I would still say that, hey man, you and I are both not qualified. You know who's the right person to do this? Is the dairy farmers. They know what's best. They know their cows. They know the seasons. These are the people that are like behind what goes on in food production.
Yes, what actually goes into the butter itself, right?
Like in Australia, they have like produce awards and whatnot. The produce awards are rated and ranked, and it's peer reviewed. It's like another fisherman rating a fish and saying that yeah, this fish is good, that person is qualified to talk about it.
Yes, 'cause that's what he does, right?
Yeah, that's what he does. It's like this pea farmer is the one that says that like, yeah, they're going to a restaurant and saying that yeah, you're cooking my peas, right? Yeah, it's that.
So when it comes down to, I guess, reviewing food,
Yeah.
it's very hard to put a rating, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't put a rating. You can say in the beginning of the video or like your general disclaimer and say that this is my opinion and my opinion only. You should come here and try it for yourself, whether it's good or bad. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of a numbers game.
Yes.
If the business has a lot of money, they can hire more people to come over and talk about them, more exposure.
I would say from my experience as well with food and food, most places, if you're already established, you already have an audience, your food's not going to be terrible.
Yeah.
So it then comes down to individual taste. You know, maybe this kuna with your taka or tak kuna.
Yeah.
But it's very rare to find somewhere bad.
Yeah.
But again, it is individual preference, right? What I like might not be the same as what you like.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of Southerners will not agree to a lot of the nasi kandar shops that I go to because I prefer nasi kandar shops that are not spicy as in pedas, but spicy as in like banyak rempah, you know,
Yes.
not pedas.
Not just spice, but spice rempah, right?
Yeah, Perak downwards, all the nasi kandar here are all just pedas, and I don't like that. So is that whole thing? It's not bad. It's just different.
Like you said, subjectivity versus objectivity.
Yeah.
Do you think in general food reviewers are good or bad for the content creation industry?
If they market themselves or like put out disclaimers saying that they are advertisers, I think that will put like some form of like moral like guideline for them, you know, say that I'm advertising this restaurant, I'm advertising this, rather than like I'm reviewing it. And then people will, if you say that I'm reviewing it, it's like people will look up to that person and say that, oh, this is someone of authority and whatnot. I myself do not agree with the Michelin system because I think that there's like so many hanky-panky going on.
Definitely. That's a whole other topic, right?
Yeah. So why are we trying to bring up our own version of a Michelin system? Are we going to have like a, I don't want to name names, but like blah, blah, blah review system? No, it's that whole thing of everybody's trying to cari makan, you know? Yeah, at the end of the day, you as the consumer can decide whether to buy or not, whether you don't like the person's how they conduct business or how tasty or how, it's all up to you. But nobody should be the one telling people that like, hey, you should come here or not.
That comes down to individual preference.
Yeah.
Would you think it would be better to put mostly called reviewers, actually, like you said, promoters?
Yeah.
You're actually a promoter.
You're actually a promoter. You know, yeah, I've always considered them that. It's like when people say that, it's like, no.
It's not a review, right?
It's not a review. It's that whole thing. It's not a bad job, but how you say, like how you bring yourself out there, like how you put yourself out there. Sorry, not bring. Put yourself out there as something that you are, an advertiser, promoter. It's that.
And I guess there's a responsibility with that if you're getting paid.
Yeah, there's always a responsibility for that. For example, number one is just like general vibe of the place, whether you think that this is a very clean place, a very safe place to eat. Safety should be number one. You should like at least like mention that. And there was like a recent video when somebody said that I will say I will try to be as honest as possible and not sugarcoat things and whatnot. Yeah, you should do that. How many people are doing that? Everybody else, they're not
Which
doing
is
it.
a minority, right?
Yeah, super minority.
Do you think though that there's conflicting incentives if you're being paid? You can't be honest. You still have to sugarcoat in a certain way.
I think big companies are doing that already. Big companies they don't sugarcoat things. They just like present it to be like, let's just look at the McDonald's. Okay, burger comes to you in the advertisement, looks super fresh, crisp. When it comes to you, it looks different. Are you pissed off about it? No.
You still come to accept it, right?
Yeah, you come to accept it, you know. So other businesses, they should at least like, you know, you tried your best, you know. If you are confident in your product, you know that you treat your staff so good that they keep on consistently putting out really good product out there. The food is great. So you shouldn't be, you should have that confidence, you know, you shouldn't be afraid.
Understand? You shouldn't feel the need to, I guess, manipulate.
Around,
right?
You shouldn't feel insecure, you know. So that whole thing of like, if it's good, it's good.
So I mean, one thing like in terms of, you mentioned about like 30%, 70%, I think you mentioned is education, right?
Yeah.
And then 30% is when people clearly give wrong information.
Yeah.
We need to tell them it's
Yeah.
wrong, right? If we look at the whole industry, right, specifically for food content, obviously there's your reviewers, your promoters, people like yourself where you said you're not really a reviewer, but you're trying to put out educational content. How do we make people more aware of putting the right information? Because there's a lot of misinformation. I mean, one thing I like when you call out some videos where it's very obviously what they're saying is wrong.
Yeah.
We won't name any names or any particular platforms, but there's one where they were saying stuff in the video. Even I'm watching it like, fuck, man, this is like, it's wrong. Like, it's not this, it's that. But like, how do we stop it happening? Because it keeps happening. So people still keep making these mistakes.
Okay. I call them out, but still they will always have their own supporters and whatnot. But then again, I guess it has to come from somebody of a position of authority.
So is this something like...
That's something that I don't want to take up that mantle, I want to be a private person. I don't want to be people tagging me and say like, hey, this person is doing it wrong. I'm like, no, I know they're doing it wrong, but what can I do?
Yeah, right. and it's not something you can, regulate.
Yeah, it's not breaking any laws. That's the thing. So collectively, we as the community, we as the consumers, we just have to like either keep on telling people off or like not consume their product, because I'm very sure that it translates to that. If you stop watching that person is gonna think that, hey, what am I doing wrong? It's that. But yeah lah.
So it's kind of more a case of educating the market in such a way where you stop supporting people that are putting out the wrong stuff, right?
Yeah.
But that's no easy task. Right?
That's not an easy task. I mean, look at Hugh Only Waiting Stall 20 years later, You think he's doing a great job in England now.
But it was a long process. So, I mean, even when I was younger, I remember he was on that journey, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously as well, there's the flip side of the intention for putting it out there is a positive. Right?
Yeah.
But I know personally, you know what Twitter's like, right? Sometimes the intentions can be good, but you get the backlash.
Yeah, the nitpickiness of like, oh, I don't like your tone and whatnot. Like, I couldn't care less. It's like,
how do you deal with that though? Like when it happens, Like
this might seem like cocky, but a lion does not care what a sheep thinks. Is that whole thing? I've been in this industry. I've seen the bad, the good. I know what to do. I know how to cook it and whatnot. And if I'm wrong, factually, go ahead, call me up. I don't mind that. But you just don't like my tone. There's nothing, there's no substance to that.
So would you say you're okay for feedback if it's like factually, okay, if I'm wrong, prove me.
Yeah.
I'll be willing. But if it's just the way I come across.
Yeah, then and again, that whole thing of like sometimes the internet can be toneless, Because again, the first initial one, I was actually from a position of pleading to someone younger, to seeing this, this kid has a big platform. He's getting he's telling a lot of people, like he's teaching a lot of people, So I was kind of like pleading, say that, please.
Tolong lah.
Tolong lah. Tolong lah. This was my turn. Tolong lah. People say that, oh, you very cocky about it. No, I was so frustrated. I was like, is this what Malaysia has come to? Like, no, stop putting out this content.
Okay, but do you feel, right, especially with Twitter lah, I don't want to turn out any particular platform. So this could be any platform. But in this case, because you're active on Twitter, we talk about Twitter, right? It lacks nuance because it's not video. Yeah. So sometimes text is subjective, right? Yeah. I mean, like you could fire off a tweet where your tone is intended as A. People interpret it as B. Yeah. Once you change the tone, the whole message is different. Yeah. And then what happens is it spirals out of control. Like you said, your tone is actually tolong lah, please. Yeah. But it gets interpreted as, oh, you're being cocky. Yeah. How do you balance that? Because you could argue, oh well, it's up to interpretation. Yeah. How do you?
Here's the problem. Like I can articulate things very well in English, but the ones that they keep on saying that like, oh, you're being cocky, it's always in BM. I don't know why. So it's like maybe the choice of words. So maybe I just have to like choose different words.
But then doesn't that then make it less authentic, right? If you're trying to like change your, I don't know, it's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one. But again, that whole thing of most of the time I'm just pleading. There was only one time that I did it out of anger and kind of backfired on me. So that's the only time I was like, I'm just pleading. Like, come on, man. There was another time that was like some kid trying to like correct me, and when I stalked his profile, I was like, this guy's a chef too. Why are you saying this to me, man? I thought you're supposed to know too. And I actually gave him a chance to like, hey, I'm gonna like tell you to like ask me again. Macam like, ask me in a different tone. He didn't take. He wasn't kind again. So like, yeah, I mopped the floor with him.
I feel like Twitter's that one platform where it's very hard to, for me, as I guess content creators, I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, I don't understand either, because there was one time I was talking about ikejime, which is a process of like you
Yes,
poke
you're
the
in the head, right?
in the head, because there was like this one video guy was fishing, and I do that too when I go fishing, and I ikejime my fish, and I learned that technique when I was working in Korea,
Seoul, right?
yeah,
Ah,
in
okay.
Seoul, and I thought that was like, oh, that's a cool thing. A lot of the people who retweeted me are actually K-popers. So I was like, I think this is good that
Yeah,
people
like
are actually
how's that crossover
yeah,
happen,
but
right?
I think they are only retweeting me because I mentioned Korea. So that's kind of like
It's hard to understand,
yeah,
right?
it's very hard to understand.
And that's the thing, right? Because I guess you talk about education, right? You want to
Mm.
get that message out to everyone, but like you said, you even said it yourself. It's not your responsibility, right?
Yeah.
You just do what you can,
Yeah,
right?
I just do what I can. That at the end of the day, it's that. Yeah, but the whole thing of intention of like, yeah, even if 100 people, I tell this to 100 people, even if there's five that actually listens to me, I'm fine with that. I actually think that I achieved something. I try my best. Well, if they don't want to listen, what to do? Like I have the best of intentions. So like, make sure that you eat better, you eat healthier. It's not about like, oh, only eat organic food. No, it's not that. It's about knowing how each facet of the industry is, and knowing like, okay, if you eat something that is mass produced, is ultra processed, what will you get? And then you
Yes.
yourself decide
Yes.
whether
I'm not
you
telling you what to
yeah
do.
yeah
I'm just helping you make that decision, right?
yeah, it's that.
What do you think your advice would be then to, I guess, anyone out there who is maybe content creator who's putting stuff out there based on your experience on the other side, you know?
Seek out those that know better than you. Not in terms of all of this like hooks, rage baiting or what. No,
Okay.
the actual content itself,
The actual knowledge,
the
right?
actual knowledge that goes behind it. If you like to make cooking videos, you actually go and learn. Ideally, I would take all of these content creators, put them in culinary school, and say that once you graduate, then only you can make these contents. Then you know how hard is it to make whatever you're making, and you actually make it right. So that's the most ideal situation. But it is that of like, now information is so easy to get. You can easily Google things, and the references are solid. It's no longer 10 years ago when you're kind of like
You have to kind of
yeah
figure it out,
yeah,
right?
figure out whether this is dubious or not. So references are there. There are so many sites or even videos that are done. Like for example, there's one chef that I followed 8 donkey years ago, even before I was doing culinary arts, called Food Wishes. It's
Okay.
Chef John, and because he's a chef lecturer. Everything he puts out there, everything is by the book. It's like, this is how classically trained, and how he works, how he mise en place everything, how the workflow is. It's all like
Proper.
yeah, proper. So it's that whole thing of, if you know, or if you've learned from someone who knows better, you will put out good quality content. And it's not only just professional chefs. It might be your own parents, it might be your grandparents. It's someone who knows better. Because sometimes just reading it, just putting it then making a video, conceptualizing, making the video, it's still not right.
So it's about getting that knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
making sure what you're putting out
Mm-hmm.
aligns with that knowledge.
Yeah, it's that. Yeah.
And I guess, what advice would you give to anyone who's maybe in the F&B industry? Like, I guess maybe cafe owners, or like maybe similar to yourself, where they've got that experience. Based on your journey, what advice or give to them?
This applies to like all the way from line cooks all the way to business owners, which is like, you have to find what satisfies you. You put put yourself out there. This is how much you value yourself. it, in the 20s, I was saying to myself, like, I don't mind if I don't take a big pay. I just want the skill, I just want to learn. As I grew older, got married, had children, I can't go back to being in the fine dining industry because they don't pay well. Like, this is just, it's just not how it is. There's that pay ceiling that it just cannot be breached. You know, it's like, I need more money. So, but me valuing myself, that I said to myself that like, I will not go back to that industry and slog all those hours, lose all of my family time, and not even get paid that much for just like this is not financial security at all. This is just like barely making it. And I decided to do business, and business is where like, oh yeah, this pays the bills better. You can save up a little bit. You can belanja a few friends and whatnot. So like that, finding that value in yourself. Like if you know your product is good, if you know that you have these kind of skills, put a good number on it and make sure that you are satisfied. At the end of the day, when you sleep, it'll be like, yeah, I think this is enough. Enough is the key word. Yeah.
And you got to find that for yourself, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
what works for you might not work for someone
Yeah,
else, right?
yeah, might not work for me. Yeah.
But you got to find that because of yourself. Any closing remarks, like invite people to come to your cafe or try your set Makan Besar, which I personally recommend.
Yeah. So my set, the Makan Besar set, it depends on how the cafe is operating. So these days I'll have to like check every month when I open the order. So usually the second week of the month I will decide whether I'll open Makan Besar orders in Klang Valley. So if you follow me on Twitter, Butter Always, or on Instagram, is chefofduty.my. So that's my Twitter handle. We announce there all of our products there, even for our cafe specials. I announced there. And if you ever want to like drop by and have a chat with me over at the cafe, Canopy Kopi, it's just at the exit of Tropical Spice Garden. Please drop by. I'm quite chatty if it's not busy. I might talk your ear off about things. And if I have like something special, like usually I have a personal stash of like French butters or something special.
That's what I
Yeah,
see, right?
yeah,
I see the
yeah.
request only, right?
Yeah, on request only. It didn't start off as like a marketing gimmick. It was just like, I think people should try this. You know, it's that I want to share the joys of the world, the joys of the cooking world. You know, it's that. So if you drop by, just say hi. Then I'll give you some.
Yeah, and personally, I'm looking forward to coming. I think as well, another thing is, like you said, you're happy to share this knowledge with people. So jangan malu, right?
Yeah,
to
jangan
come and,
malu.
like,
Like,
chat, talk.
yeah, even I've had like people messaging me like, chef, I know you're not making the pan mi anymore, but can you teach me how to make? And I sent them like paragraphs worth of like how I used to make it, and I'm like, good luck. I'm not tak kedekut ilmu lah. I don't want to be that kind of person that takes things to the grave. No, if you want to ask me something, just like drop a chat or tag me. There have been a few people of like asking me like, hey, how do I choose a knife, or how do I choose like butcher steel and whatnot. I don't mind entertaining that kind of thing. I will get back to you eventually when I have the time.
Yeah, and I'd recommend following for the insightful threads as well, because it's interesting. You know, it's good to learn, right? You know.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thanks, man. My pleasure. Yeah, I really enjoyed this talk. Yeah,
it'd be good to chat more as well.
Yeah, it'd be good.
It's always different online than sorry, in person than online. Right?
Yeah, yeah, you can talk more.
Yes, exactly. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you everyone for watching this episode of Cari Makan podcast. Jangan lupa subscribe, follow, dan kita jumpa next time. Alright, cheers.
Assalamualaikum.